Just a second, please. Hope you don't mind. You know, I'm a little busy here. Yeah. Okay, it says new story. And look at these screens, how they engulf you. Coffee's Embrace, it's called. You know, it's actually the idea for a song. I try to be with coffee. I tried to love. What would you actually say? It's her? I guess coffee. Would you say coffee is more her or more like a him? Yeah, it could be both, right? It's like, is it an it then? You could even speak to it, right? You could make like a letter to coffee and then say everything that you've discovered about what coffee is actually doing. Look at how fucked I am. Like, wow, like a mask of, you know, I feel really terrible. You know, that's the kind of mask I'm wearing right now. It's like, oh yeah. Yeah. Actually, you know, I started standing on this balancing board, and I have to say I quite like this. I had a little incident with German again. I made a German song, and then I felt like I got really trapped back into Germany. But then I found my way out again. You know, sometimes I go a little bit overboard with the things that I do. You know, overboard probably because I got bored with all that English, and I just have the feeling it's not working, right? I just have the feeling it's not working. Because every day, every goddamn day, I stand here and I work my ass off because I hope that I will someday be acknowledged, right? By the English-speaking community as, you know, somebody that has something to teach. Every day I do this and I think, yeah, it's still not enough. It's not enough, right? It's like nobody gives a shit. And that's the feeling that you get if you're trying this very hard. You're kind of dependent on this, right? Because it's your ticket out of where you are. And then you start thinking, you know, people don't want to give it to you, right? It's like, they don't want to give it to you. They hate you, you know, they do this on purpose. You know, you never even consider that maybe they just haven't heard of you. Or, you know, maybe you've created so much content in such a short time. I mean, how should anybody pick up on that, right? How should anybody be able or have the time to read all the stuff that I just write down like this? You know, it's just flowing out of me. You know, this is just completely out of control. I mean, you know, I can stand here and I can, you know, yesterday I made like 17 artworks or something. You know, 17 artworks, no matter what happens in my life, you know, what kind of great, look at what you can do on this pedal board. You can do like this. It's a very good exercise. It's like a pedal board, I say. It's like a balancing board. You can't really see that. It doesn't really matter. Wow. This is really good exercise. It looks a bit stupid, but look how I have to balance. So I'm standing on this thing, you know, I'm writing on this now. And you can actually do like surfing. Wow. It's like skateboarding. And that gives me, you know, when I'm standing here a lot, it gets a little bit boring, and this adds like another fun element to it. So that I have to start to stand a bit more, right? Because I can just do like, I'll show you that in another one. But the thing is, what I'm trying, what I'm trying to get to, that I really like speaking English. English has a completely different feel to it. And yesterday I just I set up a whole YouTube channel. I created a song, I made a video, I uploaded it, and then I thought, now I'm going to make German content. Actually, I have also made 2 Medium articles in German. And then I thought, now I'm going to do the same thing in German. I'm going to create lots of articles and lots of things. But to be honest, what's the point, right? I don't really. I'm just going to delete that now. Cheers. And yeah, sure, I could go into this. I could make German rap. I could make all kinds of things in German. But to be honest, I don't want to. I don't like the language like that. Yesterday I just listened to a whole bunch of German rap from one rapper specifically. And what I realized was that, why I would want to make German rap is because, yeah, sure, you feel a little bit, you've been born into a country, and now you want to give something back. But the truth is, I never chose to be in this country, right? I mean, I've been born into this, and they just try to claim ownership over you, right? It's like, yeah. They label you, they want your parents as a child already, that you sign them in, and then they start doing all these terrible things to you, as a little boy. They just start shooting stuff into your body. And they just run all kinds of tests on you, and then they make you part of the healthcare system. And once you're in there, it's very hard, to get out of it. Not just, to get out of it is actually quite simple, but to emotionally detach yourself from these ideas and mentally, right? To get this out of your mind. And I got to the point where I said, I am no German, and I also don't belong to any other country. But now the question is, how are you going to live that? It's very complicated. And what about traveling? Are there passports for free people? Do they exist? How does this work? How do you walk through the streets if somebody asks you for your identity, and do you have then one, or do you have none? I mean, if you carry the one that you used to have, it's gonna, it won't be valid for much longer. So are there places where you can go to and say, hey, I don't want to belong to any country, to who do I belong then? Or do I just pick a country that I want to belong to? Or can I just roam freely and say, hey, I'm a free citizen? Maybe all you have to do is not really travel anymore. I mean, I could stay in one country for all my life. Why do I have to travel anywhere? I mean, I've got the internet. I already saw the world, large parts of it. Why do I have to see anything of it? To me, traveling also takes a lot of time. I mean, I could spend the rest of my days just settling down somewhere. Why not? We can reach out from everywhere, and what I see is that traveling just creates so much crap. Traveling, all this globalization is such bullshit. It's just the attempt to get to the resources of other countries. Why do we have to drink coffee in Germany? Because we don't know how to use it, right? It's like, do you have any idea how they drink coffee in Ethiopia, which is said to be kind of the birthplace of coffee? They have a coffee ceremony. they have a coffee ceremony. That's how they drink coffee, which means, they get together as, the village. It's a social happening. It's a social gathering. They get together in the village. Yeah, I can't, I'm really, I did a lot of work. I wrote a bunch of German songs, and then I deleted them. So this whole night I went through this whole ordeal of, oh shit, I have to create an entire German channel now. I've already been there once. I created a whole German podcast from scratch, and then I went into this and I thought, I don't know why, but German makes me really angry. As soon as I start speaking German, there is something about German. It's like, rah, rah, rah. And people have been saying that already, right? It's like, you take an English word and you say butterfly, right? It's like butter is like a, but if you say even butter in German, it's like Butter. Yeah. It's like, Germans are just barking all the time. Maybe it's because they're barking mad. Okay, yeah. You can't just put that onto Germans, right? Everybody's barking mad these days. Right? It's not just Germans that are barking mad. It's just the whole world that's barking mad. But for some reason, German seems to amplify it. And the whole thing that happened with Hitler just seems to prove that point. You just have to hear him speak. And people in Germany, they cheer for that. They stand there and they say, hey, ho, let's go. Yeah, so what I really wanted to do is just, I don't really want to make my peace with it. But there's certainly some things that I have learned about coffee. Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to another workout session. Because I haven't really had the time because I was working out my insecurity about creating German content or not. I can't really say I would suggest to anyone to live my life because it's simply not easy. Simply because I don't know how this works, but I really get drawn into these things, and to me it seems to be the case that it isn't just enough to think my way through it. I have to go there, I have to face it, and I have to feel it. That's really the thing that happens with me. I have to feel everything. It's not that, it's not like a requirement, but I personally, I want to feel everything, right? I want to dive into these things. I want to, if I want to make a decision, it's not enough for me. It's never enough to just think about it. I have to get to a place where I can feel what it means to really submerge myself in this, right? To really become this thing. I have to become it. And when I became it, I have to make a choice. Do I want to be this or not? Do I want to feel like this? And then when I realize I actually don't want to be like this, I don't want to feel like this. I don't like the feeling it gives me. And then I make a choice. And then I can make a conscious decision and I can say yes to it or I can say no to it, right? I can even have intermediate stages where I say, I'm going to put this off for a little longer. It's a bit like porn, right? You know, sometimes I get away from it and I say, yeah, I mean, you know, what's the point? I know what the point is. I know what the point is. And because it's draining me, and I could use that energy to work out, to do yoga, you know, to do all kinds of things. But sometimes it's simply too much. It's too much to stem all of this at once. And so I'm continuously working on it, and what I've seen is that it works, right? It works the way I'm doing it. And yeah, it looks like a complete mess. If somebody would see me, you know, how I live my days, they couldn't do it. They would go nuts over it because it's completely random. I mean, anybody, I don't know if you've ever watched the movie, I think it's called, Anything or Everywhere or something, Anything Everywhere All the Time or something like that. If you've ever watched the movie, this is my life all the time. And yeah, sure, you know, it started to change because I have the feeling at a certain point in my life, you know, I was just blinded. When I came here, I was completely blind. I forgot everything. I had no idea what's going on, and I had to learn everything from scratch. And there seem to be some humans out there that are being born and that sort of remember, right? Oh yeah, this is what I came here to do. You know, I want to be, I don't know, I want to fly balloons for children. Or I want to be a bus driver. You know, some people, they come here and they already know what they want to do. With me, I had nothing. I had nothing. You know, I didn't know what I liked. I didn't know anything. I was completely empty. And so I had to make experiences and I had to fill myself so that I could decide, oh wait, do I like this or do I like that, right? Do I like this or do I like that? Do I want to go left or right? Or do I want to go through or back or, you know? And so until now, what I've been doing is just basically testing a lot of things. But that's the thing, not all of them, right? There are some things that I've really tested, and then other things where I said, nah, you know, I have no need to test this. For instance, you know, orgies, I don't have to test it. You know, for that, it's enough that I just go into it with my mind. And things like cocaine or heroin or amphetamines or ecstasy, you know, for me it was very clear from the very beginning, nope. You know, I won't even try. You know, I didn't even really consider it because I would have had the chance to take ecstasy once. And I said, I don't want to do it. My feeling gave a clear no to this. And the same thing I had with things like cocaine. I was once in the position and somebody was doing cocaine next to me. And I even had a friend at the time who told me that he once had experimented with this, but I didn't have to do it because I already saw what it did. You know, you can just look at politicians, you know what cocaine does. Turns you into a complete asshole. So I don't have to do this, right? It's like, I don't have to, you know, because what cocaine does is gives you the feeling you're kind of powerful, right? And I don't have to have the feeling to be powerful, you know. I don't want to be like, oh, you know, I can, you know, everybody does that already. I don't need to be like this, you know. I don't need to be like everybody else. And that's also, you know, what brings me back to coffee, because I've experimented a lot with coffee. I mean, I've tried to have a healthy relationship with it. And I've tried to see coffee as something that gives you a lot of benefits. And I believe that if something should give you benefits, you know, something should be mostly beneficial, then drinking it every day should also give you benefits. I mean, you should be able to drink large quantities of something, even in high dosages, and it should even be good or something. So I have the feeling, I could drink green tea all the time, right? And it would help me to do what I want to do, right? I would feel quite in balance. It would detoxify my body, would smoothen my skin, it would moisturize me. It would be gentle to my stomach after a while. And it would just assist me in living a better life, right? There's like things like tea ceremonies, that kind of stuff. And now if you get to coffee, what is this thing? Have you ever wondered? Like, have you ever asked yourself the question what coffee really is? Because it's a real bitch, that's what it is. I don't know if it's male or female. It's a bitch, it's a dick, it's having you run in a loop. Nobody really likes the taste of coffee. Nobody. You can talk yourself into liking anything if you've just done it long enough. It's like most people don't really like beer. The taste of beer is disgusting. What people like is the feeling it gives them. So if you feel like you're a little bit mediocre, then drinking coffee is a bit like taking cocaine. So it gives you this, oh yeah. That's what the feeling that coffee gives you. It gives you the feeling you're like, oh yeah. Yeah, it puts you into this short kind of release of energy that gives you this rush where you're like, oh yeah. It's like, sitting on some kind of roller coaster. We have these roller coasters that go up a mountain and then, they rush down all the way to like, yeah. And then you get out of this and you're like, yeah, right? And that's the same thing that having a car with a lot of horsepower or with a lot of destructive force, right? That's what cars give you. If you sit in a car and you hit that acceleration, it's like, wow. Yeah, but how long does that last? How often can you get off on that feeling until it gets boring? How often can you get off on that feeling until it's just like, yeah. How many smiles and laughs can you get out of this? At a certain point, there's just nothing to tickle out of you anymore because you're not really doing anything for that. You just sit in a car and you hit an acceleration and there's like, wow! And this is what coffee does. But now imagine you're not using petrol to get that feeling, you're using your life's energy. This thing, this body, it's your car, right? This body is your car. And the petrol is the food you put in, and the petrol is your life's energy. There are people who eat nothing ever and they still have energy. Or there's people who eat very little and they just use the energy that is naturally available. We are literally light bulbs. Right? That was what the original Tesla, the Nikola Tesla, was talking about, that he can access energy that is freely available. We can do this with our bodies. We would just have to learn how to. And that's a problem. So now we are used to putting all these things into us and running on that energy. And what I see with that is that it ruins you. I mean, the day before yesterday, I managed to drink no coffee, and that felt good. And yesterday I did drink coffee, and I felt worn out. I didn't even feel like, I wanted to continue because something was driving me on, but I just had no energy. I had no energy. So while the day before yesterday, I was doing a lot of work. I was putting a lot of work out there. I felt good, and I did my dancing. I had enough energy for that. Did a little bit of workout. That was the day where I actually drank no coffee. I also didn't masturbate. And then the energy starts piling up in you. And so you start thinking of ways, okay, what can I do with this? But what I realize is when I drink coffee, it does help me to push through certain boundaries that I seem to have. But the problem is, like the cost, the physical cost or energetic cost is so great that while it looks like from the feeling that it gives you energy, it just draws it out of you. You don't have that anymore. And because coffee is so toxic, it's so toxic for your body that the cost of drinking a coffee is greater than all the benefits combined. No matter what science says. I have tried experimenting with this, and I was drinking a lot of coffee earlier, and I tried, I was drinking stronger and stronger coffees. I mean, I know, like, my dad is drinking 15 cups a day, and I see him. He's pale, his aura is completely screwed, and he has no energy to do anything but sit behind his laptop. That's what he does the whole day. He doesn't have energy to leave the house. He never works out. He never does anything. He relies entirely on coffee and sugar to keep him going. And I can see he never smiles. There's just nothing. I've tried telling him this. He doesn't want to hear it. And I see how it is very hard. So sometimes, as shit as it feels, if you want to stop with this, you have to start observing other people and yourself. So I've observed myself very adequately with drinking coffee. How does it make me feel? And so I had times where I drank no coffee. It was very hard for about a month. I managed, and then I would fall back and then get back to it. And every time I started, I was back in the pit. And I think now I'm finally at a point where I can say, I have worked up such an awareness of what it does that I think I can make a conscious decision. Because if you are aware of the consequences of your actions, then it's very hard to ignore these consequences. And I've had this feeling before already. When I drink a coffee and then I record an episode, it does give me this kind of jump start, like, I feel like, it's like a delirium or something, because suddenly all the energy that you stored up during the day becomes available at the same time. But that also means you have a very quick release of all of it. It's like, yeah. But instead, then it's gone. And then you have to start from scratch, building it up again. And if you keep doing that to yourself, then you know what that means. That means you're running on empty. And every time there's a little tickle, like a little trickle of energy in you, you try to get that. You try to get that, right? And that's, of course, the same thing masturbation does. But the thing is, most people are completely unaware that coffee does that. And sure, one reason why I'm going to such great length to understand it is because I want to get rid of it. I want to get rid of this habit, but I also want to be able to explain it, because I'm not just doing this for myself, right? I mean, everything I've done until now, I've done it to the point of, alright, like self-destruction. I've drank coffee till there was nothing left, like till I was so toxic, I started developing blisters in my lips. That's what coffee does. It brings you to a boiling point on the inside. You're boiling. It's so acidic, you turn into a volcano. You always, just before exploding, it's just before erupting. And the heat of your body, it's really, stop drinking coffee is all I can say. Never believe anything research says, because science is all fake. It's all bought already. It's all opinionized, financed by large corporations. You can fake any data, you can just sit down, fake data. You don't even have to fake the data, you just fake the results. And then you just say, yeah, that's what I found. Yeah, they've probably got models that just fake data. Give me data that says this, and then you just put in some random effects, and then you just write a nice story. That's all you have to do. That's what science is about. It's about writing a nice story that sounds like, you can believe it. But science never does self-directed research, right? Scientists don't drink a lot of coffee and then see how it feels and then write their conclusions, because scientists say that's unscientific. I mean, how can that, that just already makes no sense. So that just tells you something about science, because science is always looking at other people so that they can feel powerful by judging them, right? They feel like they're in charge of knowledge. I get to decide, what your experience means, because you're the idiot, right? You're the lab rat. I look at stuff through a microscope, right? Scientists are people who are afraid to make their own experiences. And that's why, to me, science is just a dead end, because science doesn't care about, what's happening with their creations, right? They don't care about, they just want a medal, they just want to fool around. They want a medal, right? They want to be famous. But they don't go to the length of actually feeling what coffee does. And that's what you must do. You must really feel what it does. And the best way you can do that is by simply no longer drinking it for at least 1 month, and then drinking enough water and tea just to feel how you can feel when you drink no coffee, and then start drinking it again, and then start comparing, right? You drink one coffee and you realize, oh yeah, I feel good. So that's what I've done, right? I stopped drinking coffee, and I did no rapé and no of these things that I would normally do. I would spend my days, I would eat my food, I would drink my tea, and suddenly I started to have more energy available, and I started doing more workout, and I could actually maintain this routine of dancing every day, because now, instead of piling up on energy and then drinking a coffee to have this short rush, I would do it a little different. I would pile up on energy, and when the pressure got too much, I would just dance it out of me, which is an investment into my body. You know, when I dance, I sweat. And when I dance, I feel warm, right? If I do a workout, you know, I also warm up my body, and then I also feel like good about stretching. But what I see in my dad, and I've seen in myself, you know, you just drink coffee to feel good, to get this kick. It just makes you lazy, and it makes you lazier and lazier and lazier until you've got nothing left. Like, this man had nothing anymore, no smiles in himself. His whole life is a haze, his effort is like, this is how he lives. And I see this every day, and I can't do anything because he's too stubborn, he doesn't want to listen. You can say, yeah, you can try again, But it is, to a certain degree, people just have to make their own decisions. I mean, I was getting so angry at that coffee machine, you know, I would like to throw it out. Then I have to deal with their addiction. It's their problem. Literally, self-responsibility, people. Everybody's self-responsible. No, nobody takes responsibility for you, right? Like, institutions like the state may say that, but they just say that so that you keep paying them tax and stuff, right? Because they want your money to keep this shit show running so that we can keep exploiting the planet. Yeah, so you are willing to pay tax so that you can have your fresh dose of coffee every morning. It's a very terrible habit that should be replaced. And what I've realized is that drinking a lot of coffee also increases my death wish. It really is true. If I drink a lot of coffee, I get to a place in my mind where I usually don't go. But if I drink a lot of coffee, I get to this place where there's no hope anymore. I don't want to continue living. I just wish it was over. And that's how I felt yesterday, and that's why I spent my night. And you know, I gave up on my English content for a moment. I started producing German content, because that's also what coffee does. I have the feeling it kind of sucks you into, I don't know what. Wow, my nose. Right, it kind of sucks you into, and that's the other point about coffee. It affects your energy fields on several levels. Like, I've said this before, but when I drink coffee, I start smelling it. I smell like coffee. I drank 2 coffee. I did cleanse myself afterwards. Like, I sort of take water and sniff it, like take it into my nose just to cleanse it a bit better. And the thing I can tell you is that coffee, it affects your whole system. You start smelling like it, you know, it's coming out of your pores and stuff. Like, my breath smells like coffee. You know, I have the feeling I cannot talk enough about this because it's a very important discovery for me. And I went to great length to unmask the truth behind coffee. And nobody really knows a lot about it, because I think because the people that are selling it, do you really think they know what coffee does, or do you think they just want to make money with it? Right? Do you think they really think that it's really bad for people and that they're trying to hide that? Well, it's possible, because they just try to highlight the benefits. Sure, coffee can have benefits, like letting go sometimes, because that's what coffee helped me with. But it's very hard to balance. It's very hard to balance with coffee. It just makes it extra hard. And sometimes I just wanted to challenge, because that's also what I learned now, right? I realized while coffee before was driving me really into a very bad place, now I could use coffee to get back to that place and realize, you know, I I hold my ground. You know, I don't become this bad place anymore. I'm in this bad place where coffee brings me, but I can work myself out of it again. So I also realized now, by stepping away from coffee for a while and then getting back to it, that I actually can also work with my emotions with coffee. So once in a while, when I feel like, I'm hitting a I'm hitting a very firm barrier that I feel like I cannot push through, you know, I may just drink a coffee, right? Like once in a while, you just want to let go. Drink a coffee. It's a very actually potent psychedelic substance. But we don't see people running around high on mushrooms all the time. But to be high on coffee the whole day seems to be something, because it opens you up to certain things. It opens your root chakra, which means you can certainly work with your fear, but if your root chakra is always open, I feel like your energy is just leaking out of you. Just leaking out of you. And a lot of people, if you drink a lot of coffee, you're also constantly angry. And people who drink a lot of coffee, they're also really afraid of a lot of things. So if you want to work with coffee to spiritually awaken, right? Because if you drink it anyway already, then maybe you want to learn to understand what it does. And so I often felt that if I would just drink it and keep drinking it and keep pushing through my boundaries to keep myself also creative, then I would get to the point. But some people, they just, the coffee they drink just isn't strong enough. So they drink this from coffee from machines. I drink very strong coffee when I drink it, and I add spices and herbs such as cardamom, nutmeg. These things amplify it even. Coriander. You can even put ginger into it. But what coffee does is it has a tremendous effect on your balance, because but you have to imagine your body is actually a self-functioning or self-maintaining system, which means your bodily, if you would just let it do it, your bodily, you get kind of drunk on it as well. So normally your body would channel automatically energy. So if you fast, that's what's happening. Your body goes from digesting normal food to simply digesting and channeling energy. And then it goes like this, right? Even from the top, I don't really know how that stuff works, right? I have certain ideas about it. Somebody told me once, because I was initiated into Reiki, they said that energy is coming from the top, right? And then it comes out of your hands. I'm not so sure, because why do people because energy comes from the top, and as above so below. So I have to see myself, this is my energetic center, my heart, right? This is why we always say, center, I want to center myself, because this is where I feel, right? So when I say to you, I want to be centered, I want to know how it feels. I want to know how it feels because I want to know how it feels in my center. If I don't know the feeling, I can't navigate with it. And so the point is, this is your energetic center, and then energy comes from above and energy comes from below. Right, yin and yang. Because this is like more dark energy from below. This is the chaos. This is the raw emotional stuff. This like, this is what coffee releases. Cuffs it up, yeah? So what coffee releases and amplifies, and the energy that comes from above, you know, this is like this more cooling, it's like the more like kind of rational, kind of white, the conscious energy. But the thing is, in order to be able to manipulate energy and this kind of stuff, like, you need both. You need to ground it, and you need to be, you know, you have to have your connection to the cosmos, right? The cosmos. So you're like a tree, right? You stretch out your roots down into the ground, and like this. So your roots are your ancestors, and you know, your branches are everything that's coming from everywhere else. It's also like, right? I don't know, you know, I don't know all these things. You know, I'm just making it up as I go. And it's that's what, from what I know, the little that I know, that's what makes sense to me. And if you really want to know more about this, because I'm the kind of, you know, I feel about these things. I don't sit down and read lots of books so that I can explain this. You know, I just feel about it, and then I work with insights. I look at how do I feel about it, and then I try explaining this to myself. You know, when I pick up a book, I don't read the whole book. I read one sentence or maybe half a page, and then I'm done. Yeah, and then I put it away, and then I never touch it again. It was like with the autobiography of a yogi. You know, I read it to a certain point, and then that guy, you know, I can't help but saying it, he started pissing me off for his childlike, and I just thought, what kind of a dude are you, man? You know, I can't take you serious anymore. So I just stopped reading this. So I really, everything I do is based on my feeling. And so now I have the feeling I wanted to work with coffee again after I had a very long break. And now it has shown me a great deal about what coffee does. And I also have the feeling a lot of people have a lot of back pain. I mean, you have to get this. Normally, energy comes down from below. You know, it comes into your root chakra, and then it builds up, right? And then the energy builds up, and then it works itself up your spine. Because it does work like that. I don't know what comes from above. I don't know what comes from up there. But I know that energy works. You know, they say that the kundalini, there's like two snakes that like curled up and sleeping at the bottom of your spine. And once the kundalini awakens, you know, it's a metaphor for energy, right? These snakes start moving up your spine, and they come out of your nose. Yeah, that's just how it is. They come out of your nose. So a lot of breathing techniques come through, you know, work with the nose, like breath of fire, invigorates your body, gives you lots of energy, creates a balance also. So this is what we should rather do. You know, cleanses your nostrils so that you can also pick up scents and, you know, energies. You can actually smell liars. You can smell people who lie. You can learn to smell lies. You can learn to smell all kinds of things. And so it's a very useful thing. And so what I've learned is that when you think about this, the kundalini is climbing up, right? Climbing up. And then it gets to a chakra, and suddenly you feel a little anxious because, yeah, I mean, it's a scary process. if the Kundalini awakens in you, you will have sleepless nights. You will feel like, at times, if the energy wants to push through your energetic blockages, it feels like, and you just want to punch through a wall sometimes. That's how I feel like. And so what you have to learn is, when you feel like something's blocking, you just have to start moving. You have to start moving through this so that the energy can flow. But the habit that I've developed is that every time I get to that point where the pressure simply gets too much, I do something to get rid of the pressure. But if I get rid of the pressure because I drink a coffee or I masturbate, what happens then is, right, it's like releasing the dam. Then it has to start from scratch again, and then it has to start from the bottom again and move up. So every time it hits an emotional barrier, an energetic barrier in my system, you've got meridians and all that kind of stuff. Every time it hits that barrier, you drink a coffee and then it releases the energy and then you feel a rush, but then it's gone again. And that means, emotionally and spiritually, you keeping yourself down below because you're afraid to reach new heights. So if you want to break through and realize yourself as a spiritual and true being and open your third eye and stuff, stop drinking coffee, because that is keeping you trapped in fear. Everything that we do in these societies is based on fear, right? We overdrink coffee, and what do? We are greedy, we order all these things, we eat, because that's the other part. That what I realized, right? If you start and your energy starts rising, and then I eat, and I have so much energy because now I also, there's already energy coming, and then I pile up on that. I pile up on that, lots of sugar, and then I have so much energy, I don't know what to do with it, and then what do? I drink a coffee. So I eat energy, and then I try to get rid of it. It would be much better to eat a little less, small amounts. But it's very hard because the whole kitchen is full with food. The whole kitchen is full with food. And it's so hard to resist it because you feel like you're responsible for it. But the problem is, I'm not living alone. And I'm not doing the shopping here. One reason I want to get out of here is so that I can be in charge of the food that is available, which would mean to me there just wouldn't be any sugar available. I mean, I would be very simplistic about my diet. I know that by now. But while I'm here, to me, it's almost impossible because the temptation, if you want to stop drinking coffee, and every time you get into the kitchen, right, every day you hear somebody making himself 12 coffees a day. It's like temptation right in your face. I mean, Jesus, as they said, he went into the desert. Yeah, he went into the desert and then he fasted, and that's where he faced the devil. Yeah, very easy, man. I mean, that's very a nice way out of facing temptation, right? But to me, yeah, I could have done that, but I feel like I have no time for stuff like this. To me, I also feel like, that's the challenge. Because if I manage to resist all these temptations while I'm in them, well then, well done, right? And plus, because I've been trying for so long, I also have a lot of experience, and I also realized, okay, I can resist coffee, but sometimes I don't want to. Because for now, all I can say is that I was hitting certain boundaries and I had trouble pushing through. I had trouble pushing through these boundaries, and so I did drink coffee. And drinking that coffee also helped me. So right now I say I'm working with coffee. I'm working with coffee for several reasons. I'm working, this is for me my spiritual work. That's part of it. I'm working with coffee because I had the feeling I want to drink it. I had the desire to drink coffee. So I wanted to know what that's about. And so I said, all right, I'm going to do it. Because now I'm on the verge of actually getting really into yoga. But I also realized that if I do it too quickly, I'm probably going to crash again. Because I don't manage to uphold such a rigid regimen. I'm too like this, right? Because you can make certain connections about who you are and what you like, because I'm an Aquarius. And I'm like, I'm quite wiggly, you can't really pin me down. I'm quite wiggly, and my ascendant is Scorpio, and you will see how I pinpoint, I can nail you down, but you can't pin me down, if you try to grab me, I'm like, that's kind of how I am. And so my body is already naturally flexible. That's like, your body is a bit, people who are more like earth types, they're like, I mean, you can look at the Avatar series with Aang, the last airbender. It kind of explains it quite well. If you're more like a air water type, you're like whoosh, 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 whoosh. And you've got earth and fire, and then we're like I don't know. But I mean, I'm more like water, right? So I like doing these kind of things, but I also have to learn this because nobody taught me this. Wow. So I'm just getting into this kind of qigong, but I don't want to learn from anyone. Because what I realized, if people try to teach me, I'm a very fast learner. And if they have the feeling that I pick it up faster than they can teach it, they feel shit about what they're doing. Because the people that I've met that say they're qigong teachers is like child's play. They don't really feel this. But I already feel the flow of energy to a certain degree. Like when I do this, and then I see people doing it, it's like such a rigid, it's like reciting a verse or something. But I don't like reciting verses, right? What I do is, I feel. I want to be like this. Now I'm suddenly, you see, I cannot really say coffee is only bad, but the thing is, once it has you, it's very hard to get rid of it. It's very hard to find some kind of balance. I really like jays. What a great bird. Oh wow. Just want to take a picture. Yeah, of course. As soon as you go there to take the picture, they're just gone. But I just started again. Yesterday, I went to the bathroom, and just to give you an example how I sometimes work with signs, how I pick up visions, so that I can make decisions. Wow, I really like this kind of rainy, gloomy weather. And what I also like about shooting black and white, it seems to get less important how sharp the image is. Now I'm horny for a shot. Anyway, so yesterday I went. Crazy. Oh, there's no card in it. I mean, how often have I been in this situation where I went for a walk with my camera and then I realized I didn't bring the card. Sometimes I was even taking pictures and then I realized I didn't bring the card. Man, looks like we're building a nest right now. So what I was saying was, I can't really say coffee is evil, but coffee is like a Mustang, right? So if you want to have a comfortable day out with coffee, if you want to ride coffee, the horse of coffee, you have to learn its ways, right? So coffee is like all psychedelics, and it is a psychedelic because it changes your consciousness, certainly, quite a lot. And right, it's kind of, you can see it a bit like a spider, right? Because it creates a web of dependencies, and once that web is like really big, you will realize it's quite sticky, and you stick to it. And so you have to become a bit like a hunter, the mentality of a warrior. You have to be a bit like a hunter or a huntress. But I think you can still say, hunter to a female hunter. I mean, just like if you're a woman and you want a man, you have to hunt him down. If you really want that man, if he is the fulfillment of all your dreams, you think, I want a child from that guy. You have to hunt him down, but you also have to feel into it, if he's really for you. Because such as in my case, I'm already taken. That's simply how it is, right? It's like, I'm already taken. And the reason why I stand here with such a big smile is because I know there's a woman out there chasing me. The feeling of me. And that's what you must do in your own way, of course. You must chase the feeling of a man. And if you like, for example, listening to me or the feeling I give you, the sparkle in my eyes or something, and this kind of excitement that I have for life in general, I mean, there's a lot of men like me out there. They don't do exactly what I do, but you also have to understand that what I'm doing places a lot of responsibility on my wife as a woman that she needs to meet, because right, I'm going to, this is what my life will be like. You know, I'm here to teach certain things to people, and that means I need my wife to be able to do these kinds of things. And so if you want a man that's like a tough player, you have to be that as well. So if you're just overly toxic and emotionally unstable, I can tell you now already that, you know, strong men need strong women. So if you're in a bad place, what does that mean? You have to pick yourself up and you have to really work on yourself. And because that's what I mean. I mean, you know, I am working hard to realize my dream. And that means that my wife, you know, she has to carry her own weight. And you also have to realize, I mean, there's going to be children, you know, maybe I'm going to be sick sometimes, you know, I can carry a lot of weight, but, you know, this is a partnership, right? If I'm in a bad place, you know, I also need my wife to help me through this. And if she's in a bad place, you know, I'm going to help. I do what I can, but so must she. And so we each have responsibilities for ourselves, and that means that you have to take that responsibility for your body and for the way you feel and do something about that. And drinking coffee every day makes you incredibly toxic. Makes you incredibly toxic. And so there's something, you know, that's your homework. Work on that, because you need to be balanced. So for me right now, I'm basically just toying around. You know, I want to see, can I keep my balance when I drink coffee now? So that I know later when I'm in the position to be a father and a husband, you know, in a family, you know, I need to keep my shit together. I want to be centered so that, you know, I don't get angry. So right now I'm like testing, right? You know, I'm like testing myself to see what's gonna happen if I drink now lots of coffee. What's gonna happen? Can I keep my shit together? And I realized, yes, but it makes it much harder, much harder. You know, it throws me out of balance, and I have to really struggle to hold my ground. And so that's just a fair warning for you. If you have trouble, you know, keeping your shit together, maybe you already have a family, maybe you already have children, or you are in a relationship and you're just fighting all the time and you have no energy to sleep with each other and really connect with each other, and you spend your days watching movies and stuff, that's your, you know, you have to start changing things. You just have to understand how these things make you feel. I mean, maybe for you it's enough that I just told you, but for some people they have to experience it for themselves. And I, for my part, you know, I like connecting with my dark side sometimes. You know, I like these kind of things like mushrooms, and I like rapé, and I like coffee, but occasionally, right? I like times where I use certain methods, such as coffee, to simply work out some of my emotional stuff, because it helps me to dig in the mud. Because it does certain things. It brings me, you know, it makes me vibrate on another level. Yeah, sometimes I say these things and I have the feeling I sound really cocky, you know. The level. Yeah, anyway. but that's kind of the whole thing that I was trying to tell you about coffee. And I got sidetracked many times, but I like that. I like getting sidetracked. But yeah, you don't want to stray too far from the path. Once you discovered that there is a path, but the thing is, probably the path goes everywhere where you go. So if you follow your feeling, well, that's always your path, isn't it? So you're already walking it. It's just now the challenge is to learn something about coffee, maybe. And right, there are certain things, once you are aware of them, the cost of making the same mistake twice doubles. So if you know what the cost is and you keep making it, the consequence gets bigger, because the more aware you become, the higher the responsibility you also have, because you have to realize that we're not just here for ourselves, we are also here for everyone. So what I learn, you learn. So we all learn together. And that means, that's the realization that comes with having experienced oneness. Some people experience it like this, right? It's just the ability to feel for one another and to say, my God, this is how terrible you feel when you drink coffee all the time. So why would I keep that to myself? At least I want to give people the chance to know that that's what coffee is doing. And I spent a lot of time figuring that out. And that's why I share it. Yeah. And that's why, right, a friend of mine, he experimented a lot with cocaine, but he basically kept that to himself. He told it to me. But this information should be out there. You have to make this stuff available. If you have certain experiences with certain things, share it. Man, only one picture of these J's, right? I could just be standing behind my window all day now. Just wait. Maybe. So, but I like these things also to happen spontaneous. Yeah. I just want to take pictures, but I don't want to leave the house. Well, that's just my problem. Anyway, what happened yesterday? So I went to the bathroom and then I sat down and I looked, and just next to the door there was like a really juicy and fat spider. I posted that image on Instagram if you're interested. And I saw that spider and I was like, oh my God, I hope it's gonna stay. And then I ran to get my camera and I took a picture. And while I sat down, I just had made this German song, right? And I had the feeling something is a bit off here. Something is trying to catch me. There's a lesson to be learned here. And I don't remember what spiders, but spiders are about creating nets. And I'm on my verge of getting out of Germany. So I'm also at the risk of being caught in its net again. I mean, there's a reason why I talk English, because I want to talk English and I want to get away from Germany. I want to get away from the German spirit because I feel like there's something really weird going on here. Really weird. I mean, I've lived in the Netherlands, and what I can say is that the feeling of living in the Netherlands is completely different. Like, completely different. You may say that there's less freedom because there's less space, but to be honest, the Dutch spirit is so different. In Germany, there are really weird things at work. I don't know what this is. You can call it the Nazi spirit or something. But it's really strange, and I want to get away from this. I really want to get away from this. And my heart is set on that. I'm very, very determined to get away from this because I find it repulsive. It disgusts me, and every time I start speaking in German, English, I start getting very angry. And there's something with my roots, right? The root chakra, I have pain in my back. There's something here, I have to get out of this. I have to overcome this thing. Anyway, so I saw the spider and it had a meaning to me, right? You know, it was putting me on my guard. That's what the spider represented. And I took it on my hand after I took the picture and I carried it outside. And it was sitting there very calmly. And I felt this connection with the spider. It was a very nice encounter. I really like spiders. I love them. Yeah, some people think they're ugly, but they're so beautiful. Like just the finesse. It was a very nice encounter. But it also put me on my guard. Because that also what a spider stands for. It's being on your guard, right? You also have to see what lands in your net. You know, what is sticking to your net, because the net is an extension of yourself. So every habit that you have is a part, you know, is like sticking to your net. And so you have to make an effort. You know, if there's like leaves in there, you can't really eat them, you have to chuck them out. So coffee is in a way a leaf. You don't want that stuff in there all the time. Or maybe once in a while you're like, oh yeah, now I'm going to take it a bit more loosely, or I want my ride to be a bit more rough, right? I want a bit of excitement, I want a bit of rush and adrenaline, like wow, I want the extra challenge. That's partly why I do it. Sometimes I want the extra challenge. Because if life gets too boring, I work with psychedelics such as coffee. For a while. Because I don't want to become that. I don't want to be trapped in there. Yeah, and that's, I think, that's the extent to where I can speak now. Yeah. Because that's one problem that I seem to have. You know, I don't really know when to stop. I don't really know where to stop. You know, I'm very bad with setting these kind of boundaries. I first have to test it out, you know, how much is still okay. Because now I think, you know, oh, maybe I should drink another coffee. It's like I never learn, right? Because as long as it's available, I feel like I want to drink it. It's like peanut butter. As long as there's peanut butter, I'm gonna eat it until it's gone. So for me, the best thing is to just not buy it at a certain point. But yeah, I mean, I like peanut butter. But I also have a feeling, well, I just need a lot of energy at the moment. But I could transition to something else. Because peanuts, I believe, also have a lot of sugar. Nothing. Give it up, Christopher. They won't come. You missed your chance. Anyway, for now, I'm really starting to familiarize myself with this kind of work. Wow. Anyway, cheers, and yeah.